Welcome, everybody, to another episode of DNS Unfiltered. Today, I'm joined by Stephen Epting. How are you, Stephen?
Good. How are you doing, Mikey?
Good, great. I'm glad you could join me today. So, Stephen is kind of an expert in the education field on cybersecurity. But before we get into that, let's talk about how you got started in cybersecurity to begin with.
So I actually was a law enforcement officer for a long time. I worked criminal investigations, and when I started working criminal investigations, working internet crimes against children, I was kind of drawn to the mobile forensics side of getting these criminals' phones and extracting them and getting into them and getting evidence. And I actually liked that so much. I was like, I wonder if I can make a career out of this. Did a little bit of Googling. Turns out I can. So I made the career jump at in my late 30s to cybersecurity and digital forensics, and I haven't looked back since. Love it.
That's really interesting. We actually have someone at DNS Filter that came from a law enforcement background. And I wasn't surprised. I'm actually the one that hired her, but I wasn't surprised at how adept she was at what we do here, because there's a lot of skills that kind of transition across. Like there's a
Oh,
lot of,
lots of
or
transferable skills.
yeah,
Investigation,
talk about those.
so you're looking through forensic phones. You're just trying to find evidence, which is really the central core of any investigation. Which whether it's a criminal investigation or an investigation into a breach or something like that, it's all kind of the same process. So you know what to look for. You keep your cool. You kind of find what you need to get, uh, and just be really thorough. And every police officer and detective has to document accordingly. So usually our documentation's pretty spot on.
Yeah, that was one thing I noticed: documentation and cool under pressure.
Oh yeah, like uh, being an investigator, you get a lot of stuff. So that's pretty
You're
serious.
like,
So
I don't want to say on
yeah,
camera, but yeah,
I mean, I
it
worked
gets
internet
hairy out
crimes
there.
against children. I don't think anyone wants to know what I
Yeah.
did, but they were very, very
Okay.
serious. Lots of victims, a lot of time urgent stuff where you wanted to get stuff handled and make the rest if you're able to as quick as you can. Because if you don't, kids get hurt.
So that's really cool because like you transition into cybersecurity. However, you are still in the business, let's say, of protecting children in the school system.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
how did that translate into education?
So working with juveniles and children, I was actually pretty familiar with the school system where I work now. So I was a lot more familiar with it coming in and just kind of knowing like what kids do, like what to look for and stuff like that too. Just working with juveniles so much, you just kind of learn how things are with them.
So is your role at the county school system you work at, is it only cybersecurity or is it IT as well?
So I do a lot. Uh, I like to describe it as purple team because I do cybersecurity, but I also do GRC, governance, risk, and compliance. I do digital forensics, and I do some red team stuff as well. So I do a little bit of everything.
So is the red team stuff that you do, is it to bolster the blue team side? Like, is it attacking your own defenses to see if they're adequate?
Yeah, it's penetration testing essentially, just attacking our own defenses, see where the weaknesses are, work with the engineering team to fix those and remediate any issues that we have. And
And
we have to
about,
collaborate a good bit.
I gotcha. About how many students are you kind of, I guess, responsible for? I guess is a kind of a good word.
So my district's actually the top 50th biggest districts in the U.S., which I did not know.
Okay.
So we have about 80,000 students and 12,000 staff, which is a good bit.
What do you think the differences are between protecting staff and protecting the students?
Staff you just have to be a little bit more careful for just because they have a little bit more permissions than students have. Students are very limited what they can see and what they can't see. So staff, you know, and you've been in the game, not every staff member is technically savvy. Uh, I found that children are a lot more tech smart than some adults are. Like we kind of talked about a little bit earlier. Just some of these fifth, sixth graders, they can hack. They know how to. They know what to do, what to look for. They're just a lot more aware of things.
Yeah, we've learned this at DNS Filter kind of the hard way. Some of our customers that are in the education industry, their student, we'll get a message from some staff member, and they'll be like, the
Hmm.
students got around your protection. And we're like, what did they do? Like they're so crafty at getting around
Yeah,
security,
yeah. They're
more so
sneaky.
than
They're
the
smart.
staff.
Yo, they're smart. And to a degree, I respect their curiosity because I'm the same way. It's like if they can do it, they're gonna do it. You know, if they can do it, it's on us.
Yeah, the children are our best penetration testers, I believe.
Oh yeah, a lot of them want to do anything but learn. Math and science.
Well, technically, it is math and science if they're learning how to
Yeah,
hack.
yeah. I guess the perspective they're learning one
Well,
way,
what do you
just not
think?
what the.
Yes. What do you think big risks are that schools and universities kind of ignore?
Um, I think there's some school districts that probably budgeting is a big thing with school districts. Obviously, because it's funded from the public and taxpayer. So budgeting is a big risk because to have good defense in depth, you need a good software, good tools, and sometimes you can't afford it, or some leadership and some other school districts may not see the importance of it because they haven't experienced it yet. So I think you articulating to leadership sometimes in places like not my organization because I work for a really good one, but from what I've seen, some other ones, they kind of struggle seeing the seriousness of a breach.
Heard the phrase, the burned hand is the best teacher. I think I saw that on from
Yeah,
one of
I'm a
the
big Lord of the
inventors
Rings
of
fan.
Python. Yeah.
Yeah, big Lord of the Rings fan. But yeah, I love that quote by Gandalf because I mean it's essentially what we do, right? Like you fail, you learn, you beat yourself up, then you get a little bit better, and that's how you say, well, that's never going to happen again because burn me once, you know, shame on you, but fool me twice, shame on me.
So when you encounter some staff or someone on like a school district board that doesn't really believe in budgeting for cybersecurity, since that's one of the biggest risks, how do you kind of convince them? How do you turn the tides and bring them to your side?
Well, with education, data is a big thing. If you can go back and show them the data, like, hey, this is what X school district lost, or this is what X university lost in the time it took to bring everything back up, they usually see it that way. And if you articulate, because what happens when a school district goes down, kids don't learn, right? Lots of mad parents, lots of mad staff, and a lot of yelling. So if you can articulate that and kind of show the data of like, hey, this is what happened with them, we don't want to be that guy. I think they understand it a little bit better that way.
So you're basically bringing facts and stories essentially of people who weren't quite as serious about cybersecurity. I'm thinking of it wasn't too long ago a CMS kind of thing for
Mhm.
schools. I believe it was called Power School got breached, and
Yep.
when something like that gets breached, there are now tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of students' records out in the ether,
Oh yeah.
and very serious records like social security numbers. Like
Addresses,
these
parent
kids don't
information,
yet, and they
like
don't have
their
like
family
credit
dynamic.
history yet.
Yeah.
We
So and that's really bad too. With the Power School thing too, but you know we're essentially protecting kids' information. Like we don't want that out there. And sometimes school districts are at the mercy of vendors because a lot of school districts use Power School. That's like one of the biggest educational vendors in the U.S. So they had a lot of unhappy customers, and we try to vet all these vendors for security issues as well, because we do have to comply with COPPA, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. So we have to make sure we do all our due diligence to make sure these vendors are secure.
with something like that particular breach. how can you recover, I guess is maybe a bad word, but how can you further protect the student from that data being out there? It doesn't seem like there's much recourse.
Um, I think you have to kind of look at it individually. You can't worry if other school districts' information got out. Like we have to worry about our students, our district, our organization. So you have to kind of see what the damage is for us. Uh, you know, we were in a more fortunate situation because we weren't really affected, but uh, you just kind of have to handle it if as it comes. Like, luckily, we didn't have much recourse with
But
it.
where you mentioned about budgets being tight, is there any like very high impact or high impact and low cost initiatives that you can push?
Yeah, so there is. I mean, security awareness too. My one of my partners that works with me in information security, he actually goes to all these schools, primarily elementary schools, and he talks to kids about online safety, digital footprints. Uh, what you post on the internet doesn't always go away. Like Snapchat's not forever either. Uh, and there's some other free resources that state offers, like with the state attorney general's office. They have people that come out and talk to students as well, and that's free. You just have to make the effort and sign up for it. So that's some of the budget friendly stuff like we've looked at.
Yeah, security awareness training is really big in business. I'm glad to see schools taking that initiative too, especially teaching
Mm-hmm.
kids at a young age when they're, handed their parents' iPad to say, like, watch YouTube or like, like leave me alone for
Yeah,
5 minutes.
YouTube can be dangerous too, though. There's
Yeah,
lots
have
of
you
stuff on
heard of
YouTube
the
that's not.
I was thinking of the like Elsa Gate scandal with like YouTube videos will devolve into these very odd videos that are on YouTube for kids. And just
Mm-hmm.
weird stuff starts popping up. We've also
Yeah,
seen things like Roblox, like the gaming platform, where people can be predators, can lurk on there and get children to do things that they would normally do or should do.
right. I'm
It's a
very familiar
dangerous
with
place out
Roblox.
there.
Yeah, very familiar with Roblox from my work in internet crimes against children. That's a very, very, very notorious area for predators, unfortunately.
Yes, very unfortunate. What do you think? It's really so. What do you think the people are teaching the children? It sounds like they're teaching them like about privacy. Like you mentioned how Snapchat is, ephemeral, but not really. So like educating them that anything they put online is really kind of public.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just their digital footprint, like what they post online, um, stuff they do on the computer. Like even with forensics, like your metadata shows everything, what you did, like when you did it, how you did it, where exactly you did it. And that's one thing I learned doing forensics for mobile devices is your picture actually timestamps your location too, and we would use that in a lot in investigations. But we just try to teach these kids like technology isn't always what it seems. Like it tracks a lot more than you think.
Yeah, there's a little thing in pictures called EXIF data. There's a
Yeah.
lot of data behind what you see on an
Oh yeah.
image.
Pictures, because the mobile forensic program we used at the police department tracked a lot of stuff. Like a lot of stuff comes off that little mobile device.
So what does the staff and I guess like the people come to teach children, what do they do um for students that are kind of on a trajectory that's not necessarily technology? Is it the same sort of training? So like kids that are like in more of a liberal arts path or social sciences, like how do we educate them on becoming better internet citizens, I guess?
Yeah, well, we try to like some kids that are in like special programs. We try to get them to implement MFA, and we tell them that don't share your password. Uh, try to enforce a strong password policy, just so you're teaching these kids when they enter the real world. Password 123 is not a good password. Uh, it needs to be complex. It needs to be as long. You need to change it. Fairly often. always enable MFA. And like some of the kids that are in the older classes too, we try to talk to them about that, because if these kids are in high school having, their birthday or password 123 as our password, we're kind of failing them a little bit,
I'll tell you a little story. A local school near me had like a STEM week or something, and they invited
Mm-hmm.
people to come teach the kids about a thing. And I went to talk about cybersecurity. And it was shortly after Christmas, and I had a bunch of boxes from my neighbors, like an Xbox and an iPhone. I had these empty boxes up behind me on the
Mm-hmm.
lectern or whatever. And the students came into class and they're like, "Oh, can we win that? Can we win that?" And I was like, "Yeah, you can win that. I'll show you how in a minute." So I basically it was like, give me your email. I set up a website with a evil jinx. I don't know if you ever heard of evil engine
Mm-hmm.
X.
Right.
So I set that up and said, just give me your email. And that triggered, after a random delay of time, an email from their teacher that said they had won and to click on their school's portal to claim their prize, pick out what they wanted. Everybody wins. Everyone's a
I
winner.
was like, how many people
So
clicked that? Everyone?
everybody and all the staff. So
Oh,
the
wow.
the crazy part was they used a system called RenWeb at this school. Maybe you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
So I purchased the domain Ren Veb with two V's, like a typo
Yeah.
squatted version of it.
Right.
And with Evil Engine X, you can just say, I want to mimic this website. So during the presentation, they were all getting these emails and going crazy, clicking on their tablets and stuff. And I was teaching them how to spot a phishing email. Like, these are some things you should look for. And the emails that were getting sent to them had most of these telltale signs. I even
Yeah.
misspelled a couple of things, and the signature wasn't exactly right from what their teacher normally
Right.
sends. And
Yeah.
while I was talking, I was asking them questions like, did you spot any of these? And they're, or sorry, after I revealed the thing, they get to the end and it's like a you've been hacked page. So
Oh,
then I was like, who noticed anything from these emails? And kids were like, oh, well, that didn't look like the way my teacher writes. And it had this
right.
weird button on the top that it was from a mailing list and all this stuff. And then I was like, but you clicked it anyway? And they did,
Yeah.
everybody.
That's funny. There's actually a lot of high schools, like all around the U.S., that are facing this phishing campaign. Basically, they're saying, hey, you can work 2 to 3 hours and make $700. Click this link and give us your information and we'll send you an application. And well, what high schooler doesn't want $700 to work just 2 3 hours? So a lot of schools have seen like those kind of phishing scams, like specifically targeted towards them, and a lot of
I
them fall
didn't know
for
that.
it.
So there's phishing campaigns dedicated to students, really. Wow.
Yes, high school students specifically, like almost like a spear phishing, where it's just high school students, because most of them are 14, 15, 16, 17, within close to working range. So it's just kind of
Are
a
those
smart.
e- are those emails coming to like their school email address or like a Gmail
Yep,
they have or
school
Yahoo?
emails.
School. Wow.
All the ones I've
So
talked to
those
have been
could
like
have
school
been
emails.
so those could have been obtained through one of those data breaches, like the Power School one we mentioned, perhaps.
Yeah, and some students could theoretically use their school issued email for to sign up for Spotify or any other billion vendors or accounts.
Yeah, and I can put myself in the mind of a student. If it's on my school account, it seems a little bit more legitimate. Like there's
Yeah,
already a level
and
of trust baked in.
my parents may not check my school email. Like they check my regular email, but they don't check my school email. So they can be a little bit sneakier with it too, probably in their mind. Because the
Those
kids, they can
crafty
be sneaky.
kids.
Yeah, they're
Well,
smart.
what kind of role do you think the kids should play on their own? Like maybe the ones that are a little bit more aware of the dangers. Like, what do you think they can do to secure their campuses
Mm, they
or
can
their
report
digital
stuff.
lives, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, they can report stuff when they see it. Report it to their teacher, their principal. Uh, they can be a little bit more suspicious of stuff when just in the age we live in. Not every person that comes in contact with you has good intentions for you, so they can be a little bit more suspicious. And We actually have a lot of ways they can report phishing and any suspicious, like not even like digital, but like if they see anything like out of the ordinary, there's lots of options for them to report it. Uh, but yeah, for them to play their part, they need to be suspicious of more stuff and not so trusting. So, bad
Yeah,
people are out there,
absolutely.
unfortunately.
We have a suspicious at dnsfilter.com email that all of us employees send suspicious emails so that we can research them, and if there's some malicious domains in there, add this to our lists or whatever.
The block, yeah,
But one of my coworkers today was making a joke like, I got this email from my manager that said she had assigned me a task, but I think it's suspicious. So
yeah,
she's like, I'm just gonna send everything to suspicious at.
yeah. So when I worked at the police department, I actually got an email from. It was a not a real email; it was a phishing simulation, but it was signed like as my supervisor's name, and it said something like, "Hey, can you help me open this?" Because he wasn't like a technically savvy guy, so he would normally send me stuff like that, like, "Hey, can you help me with this electronic or this whatever digital thing?" So I sure enough, I opened it. I was like, "Okay, well, he's just asking me for help on
Yeah.
something." So I got stuck with a 20-30 minute training for phishing.
Yeah, they got you really good there because that's a routine thing that you always do.
Yeah, so they actually have a like phishing campaign. Like there's a bunch of companies apparently that have those targeted towards K-12 environments. Instead of having a 20-30 minute training that kind of explains to students and staff like this is what was fishy about this email, and they call it like a micro training where it's like 30 seconds to 2 minutes, and we like that because if a student clicks something, you don't want them to be out 30 minutes taking a phishing training because that affects their learning environment. So, like, I'm glad, very, very glad to see there's lots of K-12 security awareness vendors out there.
Yeah, bite-sized tidbits. That's a good strategy, even for adults. Honestly, all of our attention spans are
Yeah, I
getting very
mean,
small.
teachers are busy too. Like, they have to teach a class, and if they're out 20 minutes for a phishing, campaign and training, they're they're going to be upset. Students will be happy,
So
but
with
teacher will be upset.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm curious. The environment has kind of changed in education since the COVID pandemic, and there's a lot more remote learning now. What type of challenges do you see in this hybrid or fully remote education? Like, what are the things you have to do differently?
Mm, as far as differently, is just we have to be kind of cognizant that the kids are not being supervised. Like they can try to. There's a little bit less supervision on them from parental figures or siblings or whatever their living situation is. Like so, we can't always. We have to be able to make sure they're doing their schoolwork. So it's a little bit more focus on them to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing versus you know going to sites they're not supposed to or proxy sites.
Yeah, they love those proxy sites. That's how they get around DNS filter when we hear
Yeah,
about it.
you block 3 proxy sites and 100 more pop up. Very, very familiar with proxy
And
sites.
yeah, and that's what we have to do is we use like machine learning to figure out, oh, this is a proxy site, and then it gets auto added to our category or whatever. But it's like
Right.
it's a cat and mouse game. It's hard. It's
Yeah, I mean,
rapid.
you like I said, you block one, 5 more pop up, and it's just a never ending battle. Like, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it 10 years from now, and I'll be doing it 20 years from now. Like, students are still going to go to proxy sites and try to bypass network security.
So there's always a trade-off between security and convenience, and I'm curious how you balance this in the education system. You know, security versus like control and segmentation of things.
So, you want security, but you also want students to not be bogged down by tons of security controls, tons of. You want them to be able to have access in a like somewhat quick manner. So it's all about a balance, just finding like let's make it as secure as we can, but you know let's also have them learn and not have to go through 50 hoops to get logged into one website because, schools have so many vendors and so many websites they have to go through. We just want to try to find that balance of like secure, but, you know, not a pain in the butt.
So it's more like guardrails than say super strict security controls. Like I'm thinking of zero trust and all those things
Yeah,
we kind of strive towards. Like it's just too hard.
there's so many great websites for learning. It's hard to do zero trust or, you know, whitelist or just blacklist, whatever you want to call it. Like it's hard to do block everything when they need access to so many different sources for learning. Because YouTube's a big thing in K-12 because some people want to block it, some don't. But you could argue. I've personally learned a lot from YouTube, like getting into cybersecurity. It's kind of a hit. Like you kind of have to weigh the pros and cons sometimes. Like yeah, YouTube's has a lot of bad stuff on it, but also has a lot of good stuff. Like you know you have to kind of go with the pros and cons and see which way the scales tip.
Well, let's talk about that learning, that broader learning. Because I mean, I'm sure like most of the audience, I learn a lot of stuff on YouTube, just like you said.
Mm.
Um, and also learn a lot of things from like chatbots now, like AI chatbots. And
Oh yeah.
some of it is, you got to be a little cautious when you can't take it as gospel per se.
Oh yeah.
But
You have
there's,
to cross. You have to call these AI LLMs out sometimes because they're just not right.
but like you say, you can't just block everything. What are school systems doing to prevent the use of AI in a negative way? Because it can kind of dull your
Yeah,
mind a
good
bit
source.
into like thinking.
Yeah. So there's also some AI services we've looked into and we've used, but it's just kind of slippery slope because you don't want kids to have access to like chat GPT backs, for example, just because they're gonna cheat, probably. Some may use it for legitimate learning experience, but uh, a lot of students will also use it for cheating, unfortunately, or Googling the answer and stuff like that. So, or writing papers, because a lot of students have to write papers. It kind of defeats the experience of learning if ChatGPT is regurgitating a paper form. So, I'm hit or miss on kind of AI in schools right now.
Yeah, I had a someone I spoke with does training for cybersecurity, and they do
Mm,
teaching at a university level. And they said that because of that, because students can cheat, that she requests them to create like a sub 2 minute video of them talking about the topic. It doesn't have to be, like public, but they have to record a video of them disseminating the topic and in a way
right.
that shows they understand it in lieu of a paper.
Yeah, that's actually pretty smart too because I know they make like these programs that filter like they're supposed to AI detect, but I feel like even with AI, like you can have AI work around that if you want. Like, hey, rewrite this, but avoid AI detection tools. And you know what?
Yeah.
Or it could detect something that's legitimately written, just sounds like AI. So I think schools have a lot of skepticism with AI detection tools, just from my experience.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, with no M dashes. That's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anytime
like,
I see M dashes, I instantly think, oh, that's ChatGPT.
yeah. Or in the digital landscape, one of those
Or
starting
whether
phrases.
from this to that, from A to B or whatever, like a really like a contrasting statement. I always think it's
Yeah,
ChatGPT. Like
I
even
know.
on LinkedIn, you see this post.
I do a lot of research, and it presents information to me in that way, and I'm like, this is really bad. Like, it's hard to understand what you're even saying, AI. Like, where did you learn this?
Yeah, it's like literally talking. I know you're literally talking to a robot, but it sounds like a robot. Like sometimes if I'm using ChatGPT, I'll say like say it casually.
Yeah,
Like
casually, like talking to a friend.
yeah, like don't talk to her like a robot. Like
So I'm going back for a minute to the the people that are targeting students, you specifically called out high school age students. Are these like nation state actors, or are they
Yes,
just hacker groups? Oh, good.
yes, nation state. This not from the U.S. All foreign IPs. Just and from what I've seen, it looks like they're just kind of like trying to harvest information,
Yeah,
causing
that was
the
my next
forums.
question. Like, what do they want? Because students typically don't have access to like credit cards and bank accounts. So what are
Credit
they
cards,
after?
but social securities, PII, uh, their names, emails, phone numbers, so they can continue their attack.
So they're harvesting data for perhaps a future event.
A
That's
future
scary.
event, or hey, like if we have this kid's phone number, let's start texting them about this job or that job, and like, hey, like only $20 to start it. Provide a credit card, and some kids may have a credit card, debit card, and you know, provide that.
So how should schools train educators and staff against these, situations that can arise? Like we talked about cybersecurity awareness, but what specifically should it include?
For staff,
Yeah, start with staff. Like
uh,
how do we get them over the hump of understanding the bad stuff that's out there and how to protect against it?
yeah, I mean, really, it is. They have to understand that like phishing happens to people, and if you're a victim of a phishing attack, it's a pain in the butt to kind of get everything back to where it was. If you ever had your social security compromised, because you have to call these credit places, but also it just kind of puts the organization in a bad spot too, because you know their assets could be leaked out or information about their systems. You just always be suspicious of everything. Like that's what I tell staff. Just and I don't. People want to forward those emails to me. Like I'm always fine. Like you're not going to bother me. Like if you say, "Hey, can you look at this? Does this seem legit?" Or even ask a coworker, like, "Hey, does this seem legit? It seems weird." They're using the word kindly like 3 times. Uh, just be suspicious of everything. Like kindly do this.
You're
That's
like
a lot of
kindly. Hmm.
that's a lot of kindly in the email. Like probably
So
not legit.
how do you how do you and your team design security policies around, kind of a unique sector in our world of educators and students? Like it's not like any other really. How do you design security policies for them?
Kind of got, but going back to what I was saying earlier, just you want to tip the scales in the right way, like security policy where everything's secure, but also where it's not affecting children's learning. Uh, you don't want to bog down staff with so many hurdles where they can't do their job and then get frustrated. But you also want to keep things secure, so it's just you want to find that policy and kind of see what works, and if it works, see like what step can you go further to make it more secure and not hinder the learning environment.
Well, let's say let's do like a hypothetical. If something were to happen, one of those high school students were to click on whatever's in that phishing link, malware was downloaded, moved laterally across the network. What are some of the remediation steps that are specific to education? Or maybe they're not unique to education. Talk about that, and also like what are those
Same,
steps?
same. Contain it. Cut off access. Cut off the machine that needs to be cut off. Same way, really. I mean, just make sure it doesn't affect the network and cut it off and handle it. Then you would
And
educate
schools
the.
and go ahead.
I say then you just educate the user and the staff over the student. Like, hey, you click this. This was actually you know a big thing. It wasn't real. It was a virus,
So
and they'll be
quarantine,
inconvenienced.
educate.
Oh yeah, just incident response stuff. Just you handle like you would any other incident. But the kids are probably going to be inconvenienced too, because they're probably going to take away whatever computer they have and give them a new one, and you know,
Yeah, that is good. The devices are kind of ephemeral. You can just provision a new one, give it over, and then
hmm
perhaps investigate, go back to your law enforcement days and do a little
right.
forensics on that
Oh
specific
yeah, I love
device.
forensics still. Like I still get to do forensics, and I love it. I love digging around and stuff.
So we often hear that like governments and kind of therefore schools move slowly with technology. Do you see that happening currently still?
Uh, Across the U.S., I would say government in general is notoriously slow. If you ever had to work with the government on anything, it's really slow because most places have to do requests for proposals where, like, hey, we want this type of software, this kind of service. You have to do a request for proposal, and companies and vendors get to apply for it, and you have to kind of vet between them and choose. And there's a lot of processes, especially with the government funding and taxes, and you know a lot of school districts can't really spend willy nilly. They have to kind of choose, like, hey, this is what we have budget for. How much do we need this? Is there a substitute that's cheaper? Like, how big of a problem is it? Just kind of managing your risks and seeing how big of things and weighing stuff in. But some of that kind of stuff takes time. Sometimes is school districts don't have the money to just splurge, unfortunately.
Yeah, that I've definitely seen. What do you, so you mentioned the high schoolers getting targeted by seems like nation state actors.
Mm.
What are some other trends that you see growing in the education sector? Like,
Um, Kids now, like, I know when I was in school, we obviously didn't have any computers or anything, but kids are on their computers most of the day. So they just have a lot more access. They're on the internet more. They're going to different sites just, for learning. And just there's a lot more. When you walk in a big minefield, there's a lot more mines out there, obviously. So there's a lot more dangers when you're on that internet a lot more than we were 15 years ago.
yeah, I was in the generation where they told us we would never have a calculator in our pocket.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, there's like, yeah, you can't have a calculator, but you're required to buy this Texas Instrument that's like 150
Things
bucks.
like,
It's like, wait,
yeah,
what?
trying to cripple us with the Texas Instruments
Yeah, and
graphing
just
calculators.
that's kind of a personal concern I have with AI, and not just K-12 but university is these kids and young people are just going on, instead of using critical thinking, they just go on ChatGPT and say, hey, how do I do this? you know, your brain's a big muscle. When you stop thinking how to do stuff, you kind of goes away. Like, use it or lose it. So that's a personal concern I have with AI. Just I hope these kids don't become ever relying on it in the future. Because AI is good for what it's good for, but it's not gonna run your life for you.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think most of the audience would too. Like the critical thinking, like with AI, you really become more like an editor than a
Yeah,
originator of things. But you still have to have that critical thinking to understand like what is a good idea versus a bad idea. Perhaps the AI response can spark something novel within you, and the AI can't do that. Like it cannot create new things out of the ether. It may combine things in new
yeah.
ways.
It just uses pre-existing data. Like, it's just basically pulling from a little bit of everywhere. Like, and not every situation is the same as XYZ. So AI may give you the wrong output. It just all depends on the prompt.
I'm thinking of a theoretical future where, like, if you take a textbook or whatever, 12th grade math,
Hmm.
let's not use math. Let's use like social studies or something.
Right.
If you take that and you format it in a way that's like Markdown or whatever, something easily ingestible by AI, you
Hmm.
chunk it up and put it into a database, and then you put an AI agent in front of that then the student can then ask questions against that textbook, and theoretically it would know everything there is to know in that textbook. and and I think what you're posing is that the students wouldn't know what to ask. Like they would just
Yeah, they
be,
wouldn't know
their
what to
critical
ask,
thinking would
and
be.
yeah, they just wouldn't know what to ask, or like, where do I go from here? Like, I can't. What's the first step? Like, what's the first step in doing this? But and yeah, and I think we'll see a lot more stuff with AI with like data poisoning too. Just AI having the wrong info and it just outputting something completely wrong. Because I've personally gotten wrong outputs before, and I've had to call out AI before. It's like, hey, that's not right. But
Yeah, the problem when you tell it it's not right is it'll be like, oh, you're absolutely correct, it's this, and you're like, oh, that must be it. Then you're like, wait, is that it? You can't trust it.
yeah, AI is very agreeable. I've personally kind of found like it's not really gonna say like no, that's incorrect or whatever. It's just like, yeah, that's a good way to look at it, but maybe it could be this too. It's like,
Yeah,
okay,
you have to be very skeptical, just like in your
yeah,
security life, in your privacy life, you have to be skeptical. And just with AI, you have to do the same.
yeah. AI is not the gospel. Just validate everything it says. Like, don't take its word for it because AI is incorrect a lot.
So, with you in the education space and, kind of in a unique corner of that space in cybersecurity and IT, how do you like stay up to date on information? What do you go
I go
for your news?
I go to a lot of different places. I go to Hacker News. I go to LinkedIn, where I have a fairly large cyber network. I talk to them. I go to local events, DEF CON, besides Greenville or besides anywhere really. Uh, just Google stuff. I mean, I don't trust in any one source. I try to go to a lot and just local news too. Uh, the PowerSchool breach. I saw that on the news before Hacker News covered it. Uh, there's some K-12 specific newsletters like we like to read. Just you know, I don't believe you get your news from any one source. Just go to everywhere.
Yeah,
Like
and then
talk
use
talk to
your own
people.
critical thinking to decipher
Yeah, critical
what's
thinking.
what's
Just like, hey,
accurate or
like,
important for you.
well, yeah, just you look at a news article and say, hey, does this affect us? Or hey, this company got breached. Do we use them? Oh, wait, we do. We should probably look into it and see what was affected and if we were affected. So it's just
100%. Well,
yeah, just you have to
well,
kind of look
Stephen,
around.
thank you. Yes, absolutely. I was just going to say thank you for joining me today, chatting a little bit about education,
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think we got a little deeper on AI than I was expecting, which I should always expect because it's like the hot
AI is a
topic
hot
these
topic.
days,
Yeah, it's a hot topic.
especially in schools.
Yeah, schools are all using it too, and these students are trying to use it too, and it's not always for learning.
Yeah, we have to train them on a new vulnerability, essentially, like how to use AI properly.
Yeah, and what information they're putting into it.
Oh yeah, data exfiltration is real.
Oh yeah.
Well, Stephen, where can people find you on the internet?
So they can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm not always consistent with posting just because life happens sometimes, but I like to engage with people and talk with them on LinkedIn, and I like to mentor new people from like interested in cyber. I always like to teach them because I actually had a mentor getting into cybersecurity named Robert Wetstein, and I made him a promise I would mentor people to like pay it forward. So I always like to talk tech with people or Lord of the Rings. I've had some chats where I just talk Lord of the Rings with people. Favorite hobbits, favorite characters, whatever.
Yeah, you're like this is how I exercise my critical thinking as I
Oh
analyze
yeah,
Lord of the Rings lore.
yeah. I'm a big Samwise Gamgee fan.
Oh man, it's going to be a deep dive after this. Well, Stephen,
Oh
thank you
yeah.
so much.
All right, you're welcome.